Business Focus with Kudzie, Sharara on the Champions League.
8 a.m. is our time. Good morning and welcome to Business Focus. You've got the number for our WhatsApp platform to ask Kudzie questions to do with business on 0719 100 404. Good morning to you, Kudzie. How are you today?
Good morning, Tinashe. Good morning, everyone.
Great. Zvinoitika kubhora zvinoitika kubusiness here. Last minute paunongoitoti handapinda ini nosongoona zvaramba. Can that happen in business?
Well, maybe not in business. Let's talk about the market.
The market, yeah.
So you know, when you're investing, especially for traders, you must go in there with a target. Right, to say if my shares reach this particular price, I'm going to sell, or if the shares reach this particular price, I'm going to buy. But sometimes people then become greedy. So this share price is going up, it gets to your target at 90, but because you are greedy, you can say, let me earn another, maybe I'll earn another $5, I'll earn another $10 on top, and then before you sell, it just goes down straight away. So yeah,
you're making 100% loss.
I was 100% loss because my shares are going to now. But you would have missed the target because you became greedy, and then so it would be like 90, then 95, and you're like, let's get to 100, and then at 96 it just goes down straight to 70 or something like that, and then you would have missed selling. So and the dramatic and traumatic in equal measure. That was the story of Croatia yesterday.
Yeah, say that again. So what's happening in the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange? The second day into the week.
Yeah, still some positive gains have been recorded, with the all-share index up by 1.12%. The top 10 index doing even better with a 1.21% gain. It was, however, on the downside on the VFX. That's the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, which was down by 0.4%. And top risers on the ZSE, Tanganda continues to do well, up by 14.98%. TSL putting on 14.42%. And Econet, I think investors are cheering that dividend that we spoke about yesterday, that $7 million dividend that is going to be distributed to shareholders. Remember, at the end of the 2024 financial year, which ends in February for Econet, they declared another dividend. So this is another dividend that they are declaring of about $7 million. So investors seems to have cheered that. Yesterday it was up by 9.34%. Hopefully to continue on that trajectory. ZB Financial Holdings putting on 2.71%, and then FBC adding 2.42%. Then on the downside, the biggest loser was Star Africa, down by 13.43%, followed by First Mutual Property, down by 9.52%. EcoCash easing by 7.48%. We spoke about EcoCash last week, where we said that they are going through what they're calling some reconstruction of the group, and which might involve voluntary retrenchment for some staff that are under the EcoCash holdings as some of the units move over to Econet. And then Mikus also down by 3.26%, and I think we'll talk more about Mikus later. And then GB Holdings also easing by 0.79%. Most investors were putting their money into Delta. That's where smart money was going. About 4.6 million ZiG worth of shares changing hands in Delta. EcoCash getting a sizable chunk of 430,000 ZiG. Tanganda 307,000 ZiG. Then Mikus and Pro Plastics also getting a sizable chunk of the funds that were invested yesterday. So that's how things went on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, which the all-share index, since the introduction of ZiG, the all-share index is up by 17.81%, whilst the top 10 index has done well, up by 23.22%. So it seems like investors on average, because there are some who are smarting in losses, but on average, investors that invested in the stock market seem to be making money, a 17.81% gain, where there is next to nothing in terms of inflation in the last month or so, where there isn't much currency depreciation as we had known it to be like in the past. Then that 17.81% gain is a real gain. If you do whatever discounting, maybe you get a 10% gain in less than number. Well, the ZiG was introduced in April, and I think that's April, May, June. You get a 10% on your money for investors. That's that's not bad. That's not a bad return for what we call passive income, which is an investment in stock market. You are earning what is known as a passive income, which is different to active income.
Okay. This one says, Kudzie, what's your take on the economic census which Zimstate will be conducting next year, bearing in mind that Zimbabwean economy is predominantly informal? Informal traders are mostly not documented and do not keep proper accounting records.
I think that would be an interesting survey that Zimstate is going to embark on, and I think it will also give us a true picture of what the Zimbabwean economy, the size of the Zimbabwean economy. That is another metric that they seem to be a lot of estimating to say the Zimbabwean economy is worth 47 billion GDP and so on and so forth. Sometimes you find a figure of 23 billion, then it jumps to 47 billion. So I think if they do that economic census, I think it will help. It will go a long way in telling us the size of the Zimbabwean economy and what exactly constitutes the Zimbabwean economy, so that when we then look at it, we know what sort of policies to put in place, because we will now have a scientific understanding of the Zimbabwean economy.
But are we going to have a proper scientific understanding, considering what the listener is talking about, to say that most of the traders we've got more of them being informal. They're not documented and they don't have proper accounting details.
I think we can still have that census. Remember that you come up with metrics and methods of measurement. So even if Tinashe doesn't have any accounting statements or records, there are questions that Zimstate could ask, and at the end of the day, if the method is scientific, then we should be able to still come up with a proper. It's not obvious. It's not 100%. It's like, for example, I'll give you an example, the manufacturing sector survey. It's not every player in the manufacturing sector that even responses to that survey. Sometimes you get responses of just 51% of responses from those who have been surveyed, but still that gives us an idea. So it might not be accurate, but it is scientific. So scientific, we are saying if we give the same methodology to you, Tinashe, ukapiwa same methodology yashandiswa neZimstate, and you go in there and ask same questions, you must be able to come up with almost a similar result, because we are using the same methodology. That's why it's called a scientific survey. So I think they will obviously, when they are coming up with this methodology, they will have to come up with a method that will try as much as it can to accurately capture what is there in our economy.
All right, let's talk about corporate earnings. Who is making money?
Yeah, so when it comes to corporate earnings, one of the listed companies on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange is Masimba Construction. Masimba Construction is one of those companies that is getting all these they're into roads, they're into roads construction, they're into infrastructure construction, they are into when for example in the mining sector, they also go there and put up infrastructure. I won't be surprised, like for places like Manize there in Vuma, they could have been involved. I'm not sure, but anyway, this is what Masimba Construction is saying, that in terms of the business that they're getting, they're getting most of their business is actually coming from the government contracts. So I think about 70% of Masimba's earnings is coming from the business that the company does for government, and they're telling us that revenue for the 5 months to May was up by 49.7% to 24.7 million US dollars. That's up from 16 million US dollars. And they're also telling us that the order book, the orders that they have in their books at the moment is worth 253 million US dollars. And it is, like I highlighted earlier, it is skewed towards government projects. About 74% of their business is coming from government. And they're also still getting, as much as they're in the construction sector, they're also still getting some of their business from in Zim dollars. So 61% of their business is in US dollars, and then the balance is in Zim dollars. And they tell us that roads and earthworks contributed about 59% of their revenue. So as you can see there, 59% of their business is coming from roads, and then 31% is coming from mining, and then 7% is coming from housing infrastructure. And then in terms of gross profit performance was satisfactory. I think this is the margin at 20%. So the management is saying that is a satisfactory figure to have gross margins of about 20%. So this is Masimba Construction. I know there were concerns from other analysts to say they are relying too much on government business because 74% of their business is coming from government. But that's business that is there. Mm-hmm. I think if you discount that, if you discount government business, their order book will still be around $75 million US, which is not bad. Unless, like I said, unless they are losing the cake to other players, like if they are not getting their fair share in the market. There are not that many construction companies, big construction companies that is in the country. If you go to roads, you are likely to see about 3 or 4 big constructors, your Bitumen, your Exodus and Company, Masimba Construction. These are your top construction companies, and it's if they're getting their fair share from those deals, then kudos to Masimba Construction, which is listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange and led by CEO Fungai Matawa and Chairman and their chairman there. So that's Masimba Construction. And then another company that used to be listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange that is also seem to be making good business is PowerSpeed. PowerSpeed, they own the brand. I think most people are familiar with their major brand, which is Electrocells. So this is PowerSpeed. It owns Electrocells. And recently, in May, just this May, they opened their 23rd hardware branch in Madokero Mall. Yes, they opened. I think we saw some pictures of HE doing some shopping in one of their outlets. And in terms of revenue, for just for the half year to March, their revenue grew by 24% to $58.2 million. $58.2 million, up from $46.8 million. And you can see the gross profit jumped by 44% to $14.2 million. And profit after tax, retail and amari sometimes. And this is the lesson. I think this is the lesson. Zimbabweans, when you go to South Africa, it's not $100. You want to come and make a profit of $100. But proper retail, for example, in this case, we are talking of these guys making $58 million in revenue and in 6 months. Yes, $58 million in revenue. But profit here was just $2.9 million. Hey. Yeah, that's retail. If you go to even Kunana OK Zimbabwe, if you look at their margins are probably around 5% or less. Their net profit margin. But my Zimbabweans manje, we were, instead of pushing my volumes, until
we turn my profit my 50 cents.
$5. So yeah, that's these are some of the businesses that seem to be making money in the business, and they're also expanding. That's we spoke about Masimba Construction in the construction sector, and then we talk about PowerSpeed, which is the mostly hardware. And they're saying, and one thing that they highlighted when they were talking about their numbers, this is PowerSpeed Tinashe, is to say they're benefiting a lot from all these housing construction, housing infrastructure that is going around, and that is benefiting their hardware, and they say electrical gadget, electrical
appliances,
appliances, but they build the construction part, sockets, whatever, and they seem to be benefiting from all these housing projects that are going across the country. From an institutional, most of the banks, most of the financial institutions, they're going into that sector, building properties, residential properties, and also from an individual point of view, people are constructing, and they're saying they believe that most of this money is coming from the diaspora. I don't know whether that is true. That all this residential construction is being funded by those in the diaspora. I don't know.
A lot is happening, and it's good money. But 65 million more get a profit at 2 point.
Imagine.
Right, Kudzie, we've got about 6 minutes. I don't know if we'll be able to address these two issues that I picked up along the way. And something is brewing ku Mikkel's.
Okay, so Mikkel's just this morning, Tinashe, issued a cautionary statement. When you issue a cautionary statement, you are advising your shareholders that they must trade the shares of the company with caution. Right? They must make sure that they are well informed when they are trading. And they are saying there is a proposed disposal transaction which may constitute a category 1 transaction. So Mikkel's, they own at the moment the structure of Mikkel's. What do they own? They own part of about 51% of TM Pick and Pay. They own Victoria Falls Hotel, which they operate as a joint venture with African Sun. They also own what they call Thomas Mikkel's properties, and then they also have Mikkel's guard services. Mikkel's guard services. I think some of them are the ones that manage their Pick and Pay branches. So they've got these units: TM Pick and Pay, Thomas Mikkel's properties, Victoria Falls Hotel, and the guard services. And they're saying this transaction is a category 1 transaction. And when a transaction is said to be a category 1 transaction, it means it must be in by value or by measure. It must be 30% of the whole group. And I was looking at their numbers. When you look at it by asset, there's only one of their divisions or units which is more than 30%, and that is TM Pick and Pay. So it could be the one that is up for sale. But unfortunately, it's not. We don't only look at assets to say this is a 30% more than 30% transaction. So it could be another measure that they are using. Maybe they are looking at the value that they might sell. Either it is the shops or the hotels. The value might be more than 30% as well. So I think it's between these two. Either they want to dispose TM Pick and Pay, or they want to dispose the hotel in Victoria Falls Hotel. So any one of those two is the one that they want to dispose. It could be, So
we'll try to look deeper into it tomorrow. Our time was just about 3 minutes to go. And the last issue that I've also picked up, Kudzie, is Old Mutual. Making headlines in the business.
They were in the newspaper today, and I think it regards they are going into another property development in Prospect. It's a $12 million residential property development. Our usual
cluster
homes, and also high rise. They're also doing high rise. So my flats, they are also doing those, and 12 million. But what is exciting for me is the involvement of one of the upcoming. So it's an Traeger Design, which is one of the companies that is involved in this transaction. I saw from their Twitter handle, Traeger Design, and I think there's also Tanbury. These guys, they've done amazing properties. Tinashe, they've just transformed the way we do houses in Zimbabwe. The designs are just out. You can compare them. Yes.
Television thing.
Exactly. So like what we see in Europe, and they've really done well, and they're involved in this project. So I'm excited to see what sort of properties that they are going to that they're going to come up with. Prospect is not far from town. I think it's about a 5-kilometer distance, or maybe about
so it's
5 or 7.
Do you think these properties that they are going to bring up in Prospect will increase the value of the area?
Yes, it definitely it should. If they do it the way that they've done the other properties before, especially these guys at Traeger Design. I think if they do it the way they've done those other properties,
rentals and stuff.
Every time there is someone was telling me that in the Madokero area, the houses, rentals, they've already started to change, because if you look at the designs that they've also been doing, the flats that they are doing in Madokero also, they are really good. And someone was telling me yesterday that the rentals, they've started to go up again in that area. So yeah, that's what it is. Not only rentals, even the value of your property. Imagine if your property is next to these other nice properties. So yeah, the value might change.
Big corporates like Old Mutual, but you have the same type of accommodation, probably slightly lower than the ones that are kuma ghetto. I think rentals are affordable.
I think this is where we are going. This is something that I've started to see in the last 3 or so years. I think during the COVID era and so on. And I think these designs are coming, and it's exciting for new suburbs. That's what we are likely to see going forward. And I think this is one of the developments that have come. Prospect is sort of like your medium density sort of thing. Yeah, but I think it will come even to the high density areas if there's still space. But you can also do your design like that, especially these new developments.
Sakatoti isusu vari kugeto ndovane mari vanozvivakira dzavo uku vanovakirwa dzokurenda.
No, not really. Yeah. It depends with the area and space that is there. Sometimes it doesn't allow you. But I saw when I was in Manchester, the house, I think it occupies less than 100 square meters, the whole house, because it's a high-rise building, and it's just 100, and it's nicely designed. So yeah.
All right, Kudzie, I'm sorry I have to hold you there because our time is really up here. Thank you so much for Business Focus for today. We discuss more to do with Tankanda issues that are coming through on WhatsApp as well. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Tinashe.